welcome. My name's Jason, aka the History Freak. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. I've had a passion for history, the things that tie us and connect us to the past that also speak to the present and the future. So welcome, this is my inaugural show, and I hope you sit back, relax, and learn a few things as we embark on this journey together. So, what do you mean by collecting and history, that intersection of the two? Well, in this series, we're going to explore collecting not only ephemera and memorabilia of the past. We'll talk about coins, we'll talk about antiquarian books, we'll talk about historical documents, autographs, and manuscripts, which is where I began my journey, and we'll talk about a host of other things historical. We'll also talk about where to find reputable and reliable dealers and merchants the world over that are sellers and purveyors of historical artifacts that are genuine, or in some cases, a legitimate reproduction to augment your collection. And we'll talk about a host of other things going forward. So sit back, relax, and let's step through my collection. Our first stop is an antique heliograph from 1915. These were used for sending signals using sunlight and Morse code long distances during the First War, the Great War. Here you can see it has the original green paint on it, and the mirrors are still shining. Next, let's pan over and see the Enfield #1 Mark III rifle, the standard of the British, Australian, and Commonwealth forces, and yes, some American forces during the First World War. Here we have affixed the pattern 1907 bayonet. It's quite a man stopper. This is quite a weapon. You always must display firearms with safety and care, but as you can see, it's got a good wood finish. The bayonet, which was bought in the aftermarket, fits nicely. The magazine is intact, and I've affixed a reproduction leather sling. Canvas slings were more often found in the Second World War, so this is quite a piece of history here. One of my favorite battles is the lesser known but quite historical Battle of Gallipoli, the Dardanelles campaign in 1915, involving French, British Commonwealth forces, some Germans, and Ottoman Turks. This was a debacle, a bungle, if you will, but brave and valorous men fought on all sides. First, we have an antiquarian book by the German general Lehmann von Sanders in German, 5 Years in Turkey. Panning over, we have an Australian war memorial book and an antique trench whistle dated 1915. Something simple yet poignant. I wonder how many men were brought to their death in charges on the Anzac Beach and other beaches during the Battle of Gallipoli. Here we have some naval dispatch documents from the Dardanelles campaign, some Ottoman artifacts, including a medical armband. I have it in protective sleeve because it has original sweat and/or blood stains on it. An Ottoman flag finial recovered from the battlefield of Megiddo when the Light Horse campaign was in the Middle East. An antique Ottoman fez worn by officers of the era. Panning over here, we have an original Victorian era mustache cup, which was common for officers enjoying their tea. A stripper clip with some rounds for the .303 rifle, an original Australian ammunition pouch, and a picture of General Birdwood, who commanded the forces at the Anzac Beach in Gallipoli upon retreat. Moving over, we have an Australian Light Horse slouch hat with a regimental patch, original, and a reproduction or modern emu feather plume that's coming out of it, ordered from Australia. A wonderful addition to this. Here we have the pattern 1907 bayonet, frog and sheath, an original British infantry marked coal shovel, a flashlight from the First World War, a trench light that still works, a trench lantern, a modern reproduction of pattern 1908, 1907, 1908 Webb infantry equipment, and an Australian Commonwealth original book from Queensland which details the war dead in the Dardanelles campaign. Lastly, we have a diorama of the Battle of Gallipoli, loosely based on historical facts, in a custom acrylic case that's 3x2. Notice 4 terrain sections. The water is made of a latex material, and you can buy these terrain maps at most hobby supply and diorama supply dealers. If you look at Anzac Beach, the real sand, you'll see a vintage Model T Ford, some members of the Light Horse Brigade, a medical tent, and people attending to supplies and munitions. As we move up towards the front line in the trench section, the combat gets vicious. There's some hand-to-hand combat, and some Anzac forces have entered the trenches and are fighting Turks hand-to-hand. Conversely, some Turks have gone outside the trench line and are defending their territory in what the Turks called the Battle of Çanakkale. Here we have the high ground where the Turks are motivated to defend their turf, some machine gun nests, and there even is a lone German officer. The Germans had something like 700 advisors to the Ottomans under the command of Lehman von Sanders. And of course, Ataturk stands at attention in the trench by the Turkish flag. What I'd like you to take away is these figures can be ordered or purchased at hobby dealers and historical figure dealers. They come from vendors as diverse as King and Country, William Britton's, John Jenkins, the terrain mats and other accoutrement from Builderama and other designers. These are not too difficult to build, but they're quite impressive, and they add a dynamic historicism to your artifacts and ephemera, autographs, and weapons that you may have. Well, that's all for today, folks. I just wanted to give you a little taste of what you can expect from this series I'm starting. As the history freak, I really want to get you passionate about history, the past, collecting. We're going to dive into different areas. I've chosen to do the First World War, Battle of Gallipoli, right out of the gate. I've shown you ephemera, weapons, a genuine 1915 heliograph, and what I hope is an impressive diorama that simulates the Battle of the Neck, Anzac Beach, and other famous battles morphed into one from the Gallipoli campaign of 1915. And from one freak to another, stay in the past.